So I did some research on how cognitivism shaped education today, and I found a lot of interesting information. It talks about how it traces back to works of people like Tolman and Piaget and Vygotsky and some other German Gestalt psychiatrists. And it was a dramatic shift from behaviorism to cognitive theories. And so this was kind of discovered in the 20th, early 20th centuries. And it was this big shift from behaviorism to cognitism. And it stemmed from this failure that these people believed that behaviorism failed to explain why and how individuals make sense and process information. So up until this point, it was thought that, you could train people to be however you want. And it didn't take into account free will or kind of how the mental process works. And so that was a big limitation. And so from that stemmed cognitivism. And so I looked into next that switch, and the primary emphasis, it was how knowledge is acquired, processed, stored, retrieved, and how people actively learn, and the different phases of their learning, and how everybody was different in how they processed and retrieved information. And so there was two different views. And so the first view was learning is an active process, which involved the reorganization of cognitive structures through which humans process and store information. And then the second is that the learner needs to be an active participant in this process. And so kind of how it's used today, there was a lot of information, so I just selected my two favorite ones. The one is cognitive apprenticeship. And so this is the method of helping the students grasp concepts and procedures under the guidance of an expert, like a teacher. And so it had multiple different stages that went along with that. The teacher is there to help guide and give answers to. And so then there's also problem-based learning. So this is present when students with an ill-structured, open-minded, authentic, and real-life problem. So you basically present the students with a real-life problem, and there's different correct solutions. And so you ask them a bunch of different answers to get to an authentic solution to this problem. And so I like the fact that it changed to cognitivism. I think that behaviorism works, kind of like I said in the previous video about how I think with younger ages, when you're just starting to learn and they're just starting to learn and all that, I think that it works well because you can kind of create good behaviors. But then as kids start to get older and, like I said, get into the high school age and college and stuff, you kind of have to think differently. And I think that that's where cognitivism came into play, because instead of students, being forced to do things and get rewarded or punished, you need to take into account, kind of where they're at and what they want, and kind of how their brain works and how they process things. And so I think it's a good combination of both once you start with behaviorism and then lead it into cognitivism.